Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to first say thank you to the organisers of this event. Thank you to the Slovenian government for allowing it to be put on. It's a great pleasure to see something like this happening. I've been asked to speak to you today on the subject of cannabis in the political world. This is a topic that is indeed close to my heart, and it is one that never fails to raise my blood a little. And so I make no apologies for any political feathers that may become ruffled by my words today. Excuse me. I've seen a lot of good ideas presented today, and I truly commend the presenters that have been here today. The information they have presented is very much needed, and I respect the political correctness and the manner in which their presentations have been made. But please do not ask for or expect any political correctness from me regarding the issue of the illegality of hemp in this very politically incorrect world in which we currently live. And as I said, I make no apologies for my words nor my stance on this issue today. I'd like to open this presentation with a quote. The real hopeless victims of mental illness are to be found among those who appear to be most normal. Many of them are normal because they are so well adjusted to our mode of existence, because their human voice has been silenced so early in their lives, that they do not even struggle or suffer to develop symptoms as the neurotic does. They are normal not in what may be called the absolute sense of the word. They are normal only in relation to a profoundly abnormal society. Their perfect adjustment to that abnormal society is a measure of their mental sickness. For these millions of abnormally normal people are living without fuss in a society to which, if they were fully functional human beings, they ought not to be adjusted. That quote was made by Aldous Huxley, the author of the book Brave New World, just a few short years before his death in 1973. And I would suggest to you now that the illegal status of the hemp plant and the political, social and environmental implications of that illegality is a true indication of the currently abnormal status of modern society to which Aldous Huxley was so eloquently referring. When one looks at the myriad of uses for the hemp plant and the benefit that it has been to humankind throughout history, and this has quite literally been virtually throughout all of recorded history, and I'd really like you to just breathe that in and let it sit with you for a while, ladies and gentlemen. Just think about it. Throughout all recorded history, this plant has been used and has been demonstrated to be a massive boon, not only to humanity, but also to the environment. When you really take in that one simple fact, and then you step back for a second to take in and to truly absorb the reality of its current illegal status and the true implications of what that means, well, that's when things begin to get a little bit ugly, because that is when you begin getting into areas that people simply do not like to discuss. And I tend to do that on many occasions. Because what is the illegality of hemp, apart from being ridiculous? And it is ridiculous, as I'm sure most of you here in attendance already know. I mean, just take in the big picture here. On one hand, we have alcohol and tobacco, both of which kill tens of thousands of people every year, and these are both legal, along with some of the most pollutive industries on earth, I might add, all legal. And then on the other hand, we have hemp, a simple natural plant, a plant from which it just so happens we can make the best quality paper and fibre products, particle board, building materials, hempcrete, plastics and cellulose products, fabrics, essential oils, foods and medicine, and on and on. You have seen some of the myriad of uses for this plant just in the short time you spent here today. It's a plant that will grow virtually anywhere with a minimum of attention. A plant that grows to full maturity in 3 months with no need for special fertilizers, and that naturally improves the soil that it grows in. It's a plant that has quite literally served as mankind's companion plant throughout all recorded history, and in all that time has not been responsible for the death of one single person ever in its 5,000 years of recorded use. And this plant is, by law and decree, illegal. And we are told that this must be so because of concerns for our safety, no less. when you truly step back and take all of that into account, the illegal status of hemp virtually defines the literal definition of the word ridiculous better than any dictionary ever could. Indeed, when one truly looks at the issue from the correct perspective, ridiculous is simply the default conclusion regarding the matter. And so the question must be asked, why then is this plant illegal? And the reason is because were it legal, it would instantly free mankind from the financial shackles of some of the biggest, most pollutive and most profitable corporations in the world today. Mining companies, oil companies, timber, plastics, buildings, pharmaceuticals, all of these industries would suffer a dramatic reduction in profits were hemp to be made legal. So ultimately, it's business. Aha, you say, we can protest, we can boycott their products, we can send complaints and petition the governments for change. And these have traditionally been the steps that we have taken. But the truth is that no matter how much we do that, the position never seems to change. We just get reports back from the governments. Yes, we will be addressing the matter at the next meeting in June. No matter how much we attempt to bring about change, working within the parameters provided for us, it's always the same. So why? And the why is the truly diabolical part of the issue, because the why is that all of these companies came to power and gained control they currently have precisely through the legislation enacted by the governments we seek to petition. And these are the same governments who enact the legislation that is used to prevent the people from having any real power and thus from ever having really any control over the matter at all. And so as a society, we flail endlessly against a wall of indifference, hoping for common sense and freedom that never comes, because we are always working within the parameters of a corporate system that will simply not allow common sense and freedom to be part of this reality, due to concerns for our safety. And if one really gets involved in this world, we find out that it's not only this way for hemp, but it's the same for every other serious issue that mankind is facing. It's the same if one attempts to do battle against environmental degradation, against pollution, homelessness, war, starvation, poverty, coal seam gas mining, or corporate corruption. And that's when it becomes clear that all of these so-called problems are in fact actually symptoms of one higher problem. And that problem lies within the foundation and structure of the system itself. A system that was apparently constructed by mankind to service mankind's needs. Just take that in too, please, folks. And no matter how much we try to affect any real change within the system, we ultimately fail because we only ever address the symptoms rather than the actual problem. And thus our response is compartmentalized, ultimately rendering it ineffective. So what do? How do we inject common sense and freedom into a system that simply will not allow it? What we do is we shift our perspective to see the interrelation, the relationship between all of these symptoms, and then we focus on the actual problem that is causing these symptoms to occur. The problem lies with the system itself and the loss of natural power that each human being on this earth actually holds within them, should they choose to exercise the power that they have. Now, I could go into a myriad of ways to do this and discover how powerful you actually are, but that would require an entire presentation on its own, and we would be here all day, so I won't go into that now. But what I will say is that personally, I believe the very first thing we need to do is to understand what the system is, and the first step we need to do in that is to come to a clear understanding of what our relationship with government actually is. And this is a question that many people seem to fail to ever ask. And in saying that, I'm reminded of a quote by Martin Heidegger in which he said, "The most thought-provoking thing in our thought-provoking time is that we are still not thinking." And that's what we need to do, my friends. We need to start thinking. We need to start realizing the truth. We need to remember who and what we are and the power that we, the people, hold as a community, should we choose to exercise that power. Most people take it for granted that governments are our controllers, and they don't question the fact, and they think this way because they've been trained to think this way via the thought processes instilled into them by a government-controlled education system. But the real truth is that we live in democratic nations, where we have a government elected by the people, of the people, and for the people. And what our relationship with those whom we elect actually is that of fiduciary trust. It's that simple, folks. We employ these people to act on our behalf, and they are simply not doing so. The truth is that those elected to govern are in fact public trustees, whom we employ to manage what is essentially the administrative arm of our society. They are nothing more. And I would suggest that all one needs to do is to look at the current state of our world in order to realise that virtually every government in the world today is in breach of trust. And they are certainly in breach of trust by making hemp an illegal substance. In fact, I would go so far as to say that the illegality of hemp is a clear indication of that breach of trust, because the legalisation of this plant would put a stop to many of the most pollutive industries on earth, be instrumental in helping steer the ship of state on a different course than the path of self-destruction it is currently on, and it would effectively set the world on a path towards freedom and abundance. And yet, at this present time, this plant is still illegal due to concerns for our safety. My friends, this is breach of trust. And this is the pure and simple truth regarding the illegality of hemp. And so the real question becomes, how might this matter be dealt with? Well, the truth is that the only way this matter may be effectively dealt with, and in which remedy for this ridiculous situation may be found, is via action undertaken by the people themselves. But again, how? I mean, sure, we need to take action, but what is the action we need to take? What, do we overthrow the governments through revolution? No, not at all, because we need some sort of administrative arm due to the structure of our societies. Violent revolution has been tried in the past, and in truth it has never effectively brought about any real change, and I'm certainly not promoting revolution or the overthrow of any governments. We need an administrative arm, but we need an administrative arm, public trustees, that is both competent and reliable. But even more than that, we need public trustees who are both honest and accountable. And I must say that it is a welcome relief to see that certain governments seem to be at last coming to their senses. Such indeed seems to be the case with the government here in Slovenia, and I commend them on the stance they are taking by allowing this Congress to be held and in the support they are showing to this issue. I believe it is through the actions of small countries such as Slovenia and the examples they are setting that empowerment for other countries may be found, and in that empowerment, hopefully, the encouragement to then follow their lead. And may I also say that the very first world leader to act on this matter and to commence an initiative to legalise hemp will go down in history as one of the true saviours of humankind. And they need to think about that. And a responsible government should see the reality of this anyway. A responsible government should clearly recognise that as a species, we need public trustees who are both honest and accountable. But such accountability will only ever be achieved by a populace who is awake and informed enough to know what the true role of government is, and that role is that of public trustee. And the truth is that this is not unique to any one country, but it is simply a fact regarding the global community known as mankind, and that effective change must therefore be brought about by the action undertaken by the global community as a whole, each group taking similar action in their own respective countries. The truth, folks, is that hemp has and has always been illegal, not in order to ensure public safety, but in order to serve a political agenda that is wholly subservient to corporate power. The truth is that hemp is illegal because legalising it would affect corporate profits and free mankind from the clutches of a system of contrived scarcity, because that is the true nature of the financial system that currently enslaves them. The truth is that hemp is illegal because the system that we currently have in place is not designed to service the needs of the people, but is designed to service an economic model that places the needs of corporations, the needs of the economic model, above the needs of everything else, and that views mankind as the most expendable thing that exists within the parameters of this system.